Griffin Art Club gave me a congratulations party. Naturally, they had it in that building. Miss Doreen later became, well, Mrs. Chester, later became Mrs. Ambers, when at the age of 76, she married her childhood sweetheart, Roscoe Ambers. They were married in the Fannie Griffin Art Club building. That building was located at 1912 7th Street in Hannibal. It's a very small building, but there is a large treasure of great stories within its walls. And that's the Fannie Griffin Art Club. Originally, it was a church, the Church of God in Christ, and it was constructed in 1929. The church prospered for over 40 years, but when the congregation dwindled down to one member and one minister, they decided to close the church doors. On February 6, 1972, 9 years prior to my coming to Hannibal, a group of African American women decided to organize a club for the purpose of promoting the quality of life. Miss Doreen was the founder. They would invite additional participants to become more involved in the community's cultural and educational awareness. The women there wanted the club to bear the name of someone who had proven to exemplify honesty, responsibility, and have an excellent rapport with all people, and the ability to lead others fairly in the community. A woman named Fannie Griffin, through action and reputation, had demonstrated such qualities. Miss Griffin graduated in 1955 from Homer G. Phillips Hospital School of Nursing. She was now a registered psychiatric nurse and had worked in the psychiatric ward of her alma mater before returning to Northeast Missouri. Born and raised in New London, Missouri, she moved to Hannibal, which is 10 miles east of New London, and became one of the first 2 African-American nurses in Hannibal's history. And there's a picture of Miss Fannie Griffin, and the fact that she became one of the first. Oh, Lord, remember me. Thank you.
Business, because as Angela confessed, she was so shy she could barely come out of a closet if it was time to tell a story. She preferred being behind a door at the beginning of her starting to tell tales. So we have Gladys to thank for urging Angela to step out from behind that door and do her storytelling where we could see and hear her. Angela is from one of the prominent families in Hannibal, Missouri. The Williamses have made their mark on Hannibal's body and soul, serving their neighbors as beauticians and morticians, preachers in the pulpit, and keepers of an historical cemetery. She is our next generation storyteller today. Because we need to hear stories from the ones who come before us, we need to share them with the ones who stay after we go. And happily, Angela is doing that for and with us. She now stands beside her mentor and friend as a professional storyteller and educator. Please welcome Angela.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming out today in the rain. And I would like to thank my mentor, Dr. Gladys Coggswell. And I'd also like to make a special thanks to my family who came all the way from Hannibal, Missouri. My mom and dad, and my brother Sean, and my Uncle Joe, as you can see, video Joe, and my auntie, Yvonne Dixon. All right. As you know, I was born and raised in Hannibal, Missouri. My paternal grandfather lived in Hannibal all of his life, and his maternal grandfather lived in Hannibal all of his life, as far as I know. There has been many Williamses in Hannibal for as long as I can live, as long as I can remember, and I know it's been at least 6 generations. I believe the Williams is one of the largest African-American families there. Although many have moved, some have passed away, we've made our mark in Hannibal, and I'm thankful for that. We're still doing a pretty good job, I think. I have many places that I can tell you about, but the most important place that I believe that I'm going to share is where my mother had her beauty salon. And it was some of Hannibal's finest citizens that participated there and got their hair done. My mother's name was Margaretta Lawson. She was born in Summerton, South Carolina. She had 10 brothers and sisters and was mostly raised by her mother, Mattie Pearl Lawson, who was kind, humble, and very quiet, and she was hardworking. My paternal grandfather, Harold, traveled one summer with us to go to the McDonald's family reunion. And we were sitting in my grandmother's small living room. There was no air conditioning. And I noticed him looking around. He would always lick his lips. And he looked at me and my family. He said, "Y'all sure don't have a lot of money. But y'all do have a lot of love." And that's the best way I can describe to you my family down in South Carolina. We would love each other, tell stories, laugh, and that's some of the best times because we hardly got to see each other, but once or twice a year. And when my mother was 9 or 10 years old, she used to go visit her grandfather, Jake McDonald. And he lived on a farm, about 60 or 70 acres. And he had pigs and hogs. He had, he grew cotton. He grew corn. He had chickens. And one day he was trying to catch this certain hog. But the hogs, I don't know if you ever seen a hog pen or a pig pen, they go everywhere, so he was having trouble. And my mother, her brothers and sisters and cousins and some of the neighbors were looking on, and she said, "Papa, I can catch one of them hogs." And he said, "Oh no, you can't, girl." And before he knew it, she was out there chasing that particular hog to the left, to the right. Pretty soon she jumped on the hog, grabbed it down, and held it till her grandfather could get it. His eyes was wide with surprise, but then he thought, he said, "No, I'm going to start calling you Hard Rock." And that was her nickname, Hard Rock. And I asked my mother when I was gathering the story, "What does Hard Rock mean?" She said, "That means that I am strong and tough." And I will say she is. Getting her hair pressed as a child wasn't fun at all. She had to sit there after they washed the hair. The hair would kind of look like this on my little afro puff. And they had to take a piece of it and comb it out, straighten it up, and then they put some grease on it, and they put the Marcel iron in the hot plate or in the hot stove and let it heat up. Then they get that piece of hair and press it until it got hot, and pretty soon it was straightened out. It looked like some of your hair. And you can comb through it. But there was a little problem. Sometimes that grease would get so hot, and that hot iron would get so hot that it burned her scalp. And pretty soon she said, "I'm going to get my scalp burned. I might as well do it myself." And from that day on, she was pressing her own hair. Her grandmother's hair, her mother's hair, all of her sister's hair. And when my mother graduated from high school, she went to college. at Voorhees College in Denmark, South Carolina, which is 56 miles west of where she lived in Somerton. And there she met my father, Rodney. He's back there. They fell in love. She dropped out of college and moved to Hannibal to get married in 1973. My mother and father celebrated their 42nd anniversary this past June. June 2nd, actually. In Hannibal, she started doing my father's hair, her sister-in-law's hair, her brother-in-law's hair, and some neighbors and friends. Pressing her cosmetology license, and that took about a year. And then in 1981, she opened up her own beauty salon, Margaretta's Beauty Salon. And one lady came busting through the door. "Oh, Margaretta, you've got to do something to my hair." See, what had happened was the lady tried to do her hair at home. And she either put a perm in it when she shouldn't have, or put a curl in it when she shouldn't have, and her hair started falling out. Well, my mother moisturized the hair, cut a little there. She did so good. Do you know after 30 years, she still comes to my mother's beauty salon? And even her daughter. Well, in 1982, she got pregnant with her third and last child, me. Business was booming, and she sat on a stool until the 9th month of pregnancy because customers wouldn't let her go. Well, many attended the baby shower. She said I had so many gifts and so many outfits that I couldn't even wear them all, and I would grow out of them. My mother stayed home with me about 6 months, and then the customers said that she had to come back to work. And she placed me in a playpen, and when I needed to be fed, when the customers that were waiting would come feed me, when I needed to be changed, one of the customers would come and change me, and you know the rest. At that beauty salon, I learned how to tie my shoes. I knew how to put a relaxer in, how to do a curl. I knew how to shampoo and rinse it out. I knew the procedures of how to do every hairstyle that a lady might want. And do you know, by the age of 13, I was able to cut hair better than some of the professionals that were around there? So it was only natural when I turned 18 that I would apprentice under my mother to become a cosmetologist. And I did. You know, I've learned at an early age that you never know what might happen in a beauty salon. Anything could happen. And I'm going to tell you about that. Thursdays, ladies were most of the ladies that attended the Fannie Griffin Art Club in that picture. And that was their day. And they would bust through the door. "Margaretta, I hope you have that coffee and them donuts ready." And they would sit around and laugh and talk. And Fridays, I call that family day. And Friday, my father, who was a cosmetologist, because he told me when I was growing up, he said, "Angela, you get as many trades as you can, because you don't know what might happen in this economy." And you know, he's a pastor. He took care of individuals who had disabilities. What else have you done? He's a funeral director and an embalmer and a cosmetologist. So he would do all the men's hair in my family, and my mother would do all the women's hair in my family. And she was booked all day. And so one day, laughter erupted all over the shop. I mean, stories were told, people laughed, and one day we saw Jesus running past the shop. That's right, Jesus. Well, not the real one, prison. Can you imagine a shop full of women and men watching the young and the restless, and all of a sudden Jesus comes running with the cross attached to his back? Well, of course, someone had to run out to see what was going on. And come to find out, he was starting his journey from the west side of the U.S. and traveling all the way to the east, witnessing and proclaiming for Jesus. So growing up, my grandfather, I talked to you about my grandfather, Harold, he never, ever came to the shop to get his hair done. And I always wondered why. I always wondered. He used to have a plastic bag on his hair. And he would wear that plastic bag when he was working with the horses on his farm. I mean, anything he did, when he went to work, when he went to the store, that plastic bag would be stuck on his head. Unless he went to church on Sunday mornings or a special event. We would see his hair. And I mean, my grandpa could dress, and there was not one hair out of place. He was sharp from the top of his head all the way to the bottom of his feet. Well, one time, I went to church, and my cousins and I, and we were sitting in the church in the row behind him. And one of my cousins, Wintry, snuck down the pew, and he started tugging on Grandpa's plastic bag that was tied to his head. And my grandpa turned around so quick, "Hey, boy, you leave my plastic bag alone." And we would just giggle, we would just laugh. And when my grandpa got relaxed again and was listening to the preacher, my cousin went back down there again, started pulling on that plastic bag. And I never saw my grandfather. I mean, I don't think I ever heard him yell. But he got up and he looked so upset. And he walked out and got away from my cousin. You know, I just didn't understand it until one sunny day, I was at the shop doing hair. And I saw my grandpa pull up, and it was kind of strange because he was without my grandmother. He grabbed me, he took me to the back, closed the door, and he started licking his lips. "Hey, you got that brown bag?" I said, "Huh, Grandpa?" "Girl, you know what I'm talking about, that brown bag. Your mother keeps some hair in the bag for me." And right then and there, I knew what all the fuss was about. The plastic bag, never getting a haircut. And he didn't want no one messing with it. I understood it all. My grandfather was bald. And as we all know, time never stops. It keeps on ticking. People move. Circumstances change. People get older. And there was a day when I noticed that a lot of the Thursday crew that's in that picture stopped coming to the beauty shop. Some of them had to move out of town with their daughter because they couldn't take care of themselves. Some had to go to the nursing home. Some of them passed away. And then some of them had Alzheimer's, cancer, just things kept on happening. But there was one lady who kept calling my mother. And the phone, we would check the answer machine and say, "Margaret, I just need you to come over to the nursing home and do my hair. Please just come on down." And after receiving a few calls, my mother decided to go, and I decided to tag along with her. So we were sitting in there. The nursing home, they had a little shampoo bowl place to sit your product, your stationery and all the stuff that you need. And my mother was rolling the lady's hair up. And I tell you that she was going deaf. I don't think I'd sit there. And she was rolling her hair up. And pretty soon a lady had walked past, not real fast, past the door where we were sitting. And then the lady spoke up. She said, real loud, "Margaretta, did you see that woman that just passed by here? She's the one they have doing hair. She can't do hair worth." Shh. Oh, you gotta close this door. And that was the story. And then my dad, of course, he was a cosmetologist, but he also loved to come down and shop and sit and be with his wife. He loved to tease and jive with the ladies, and they all loved him. And they all enjoyed when he came to sit and be with them. But one day, there was a woman who was being dropped off by her husband, and she loved her cigarettes. Even though she had an oxygen tank and plugged up into her nose, she still loved her cigarettes. And as time passed, I noticed one day that she wasn't taking her cigarette breaks. And she got out of the van. And usually I go to the door and I helped her. And she got out of the van. And she stayed there for a while. And all we heard was, She was trying to catch her breath. And then she took 3 more steps to the door. And I started getting nervous. And so she walked and finally made it to one of the styling chairs, and all I could hear was, My mother stopped doing hair. She put the curling iron down, and she started to help the lady. And the lady's, She sat down, and she pointed towards the fan. And I was like, I was scared of dead people. I thought she was about to go. So I started tiptoeing towards the door. And my mother said, "Angela, turn on the fan." And I turned on the fan, and she's still. And then she said, "Who's been sitting in this chair? I bet it was your daddy Rock because it's all bent and out of shape." And then we all took a deep breath. And then Mrs. Yates was an early riser. She was the first person to get her hair done on Thursdays. She's not in that picture, but she was from Louisiana, Missouri. And she would normally drive by herself and make it to her appointment on time. And as time passed, like I told you earlier, I noticed that she had to get help. And they told her she couldn't drive no more. And one day, my mother received a phone call at the shop. "Margaret, is Miss Yates there?" She said, "No, she's not here." "Well, she's not supposed to drive no more." And it's not long after the call ended. Here comes Miss Yates in this big old car, turning and swerving, barely missing the cars coming, and drives up on the curb and parks about 4 feet away from where she was supposed to be. Margaret's beauty salon, to me, was a very special place. And I don't know if there was any other places like it. The women were smart, leaders in our community, the funniest ladies you would ever meet, and positive, encouraging. And my mother was also in that group, because I don't believe it wasn't for her personality, her wit, her eagerness to laugh, it wouldn't have been able to be possible. And I think my mother having the nickname Hard Rock was right on. So if you ever come into Hannibal, don't be shy and come visit me at Margaret's Beauty Salon. Thank you.
Hey, boy, y'all right in the house today.
We right now, man.
And movie cameras, TV, video.
Oh, man. I didn't know y'all was going to be on TV today.
I couldn't either.
Margaretta's Beauty Shop. That's a good story.
All right. But you guys are sitting in there.
Yeah, her.
They got it down in posterity. Yes.
You watch the